finally, I put my hand up and said, all right, I will do it. Put the jersey on and get out there. It was a little overwhelming the first couple months, but everything's fixable, right? So as long as you have a great concept, I tell the team, we're not trying to fix Blockbuster.
Welcome back to the Fitt Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Veneri. Today I'm joined by Tom Dowd, CEO of F45 Training. In this episode, Tom talks about teaming with Mark Wahlberg to invest in F45. We discuss how the company's recent struggles, including layoffs, a leadership shakeup, and financial struggles led him to assuming the CEO role. Plus, he shares his back-to-basics approach to turning the business around. Let's get into it. The Fitt Insider Podcast is brought to you by Jack Taylor, our exclusive PR partner. More than just PR, they're creative storytellers and brand builders who actually understand the health and wellness industry. To learn more, head to fitt.co/JackTaylor. That's fitt.co/JackTaylor. Hi, Tom. Welcome to Fitt Insider. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Joe. It's a pleasure. Hello to Fitt Insider. It's really great to be here.
Yeah, excited to chat. I think a lot to get into. From the F45 perspective, I think a lot of folks are familiar with the brand, right? Have kind of seen it as a premier functional fitness concept, really introducing that concept, to the world in the US. Obviously, in the more recent, call it last 2 years, some obstacles and definitely some challenges that brought you on board. So for folks who aren't familiar, could you maybe introduce yourself and tell us about how you got involved at F45, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. So we've been investors, myself and Mark Wahlberg, who is my business partner in several different investments, came across F45. I actually took a meeting in the back room of the Ellen show when Mark was filming. And of course, I did my due diligence and I was very excited to have the meeting. And then it was such a good meeting, I actually made Mark sit in on the meeting with me again, and we had the meeting all over again. He was kind of in a hurry, wanted to go, but I convinced him, listen, we need to put our back into this, and I want you to hear it firsthand. And we had the meeting, and literally within 2 weeks, I think we had the offer in and started grinding away on closing the deal. So our group put $110 million in. I brought in my personal friends and associates to go into this with us as well, outside of their funds, to do it personally with me. And then we started the journey, and then COVID happened. So I'm actually a franchisee with Wahlburgers as well. Like a good example, Mark and I own 40% in 2 local Wahlburgers here in Pittsburgh. I'm invested about 12, so I'm obviously on the other side of the table as well. So, no fun being in the restaurant and gym business during COVID, I can tell you that. But, we still had faith and knew that eventually it would end. And it did. And we still loved the brand, and we knew the gym business would come back, and people had a pent up demand to get back out and socialize and get in better shape, better than ever, because clearly COVID was great for, like, we have a sports nutrition business, performance inspired nutrition. Our sales skyrocketed during COVID because more people were just now focused on their health. So we knew that when we came out of COVID that would be a good thing. But then lo and behold, they went public. And some inexperienced, I guess is the best way to put it, people running the company basically didn't have the skill set, I guess, to really manage, the monster that this was. And being a public company is a very different skill set as well. So, to answer your question now, so now I'm an investor coming on, 3.5, 4 years. We were working to find some CEOs. I wasn't looking for a job beyond what I was doing with my investments and working hard at that with Mark, doing due diligence, working on deals. It just came down to it, quite frankly, where for my, I guess, sanity, it was better for me to just come in and do the heavy lifting myself needed in the beginning to get the corporate HQ business back on track and get the parameters set and the responsibilities and just the basic business principles that, we live with and I grew up with running a big business with GNC. So I just knew that, at some point, but rather than risk having somebody else come in and test them out, I just knew I could hit the ground running. So finally, I put my hand up and said, all right, I will do it. I'll put the jersey on and, get out there. It was a little overwhelming the first couple months, it's like, the proverbial, fire hose. But I'm always the believer, but everything's fixable, right? So as long as you have a great concept, I tell the team, we're not trying to fix Blockbuster. we know there's problems in business. That's what we get paid to do, is fix things and have the background and experience to, and knowledge on how to fix things the right way, which, in this business wasn't that, quite frankly, complicated. It was just giving people responsibility and direction and being decisive and having the respect for capital and the respect for the system to do the right thing as far as where we spend money, how we spend money, who's on the payroll, who deserves to be on the payroll, and how do we build an amazing team, which we've done. So I'm really thrilled. Honestly, I haven't even tapped into my Rolodex yet to bring people into the business because, once we kind of made some strategic moves, getting the right people, everybody literally just stepped up in an amazing way, and I couldn't be more thrilled with the team, quite frankly. So everybody's loves the brand, loves the business, and it was really unfair for them to have to survive, go through some of this mismanagement issues. But now everybody's feeling secure and happy with the direction. And believe it or not, just like an unruly child, they crave direction and confidence in their parents giving them the right, directional support and always supporting them. And, really people are embracing it. So it's really been a great place to be.
Yeah, and like you said, it hasn't been that long that you've been in the role. You maybe haven't even tapped into the Rolodex, but certainly kind of getting things moving in the right direction. As you think, I don't know if you think about it as restructuring, or you mentioned kind of putting guide rails in place. Maybe, and this might not be the right word, I don't want to put words in your mouth, like some level of like discipline as it comes to like what the growth plan is and how you're spending money, all of those sorts of things. I'm curious how much you mentioned, obviously being an investor in the business, helping diligence the deal with Mark Wahlberg, and then kind of getting to the other side, maybe post IPO, early 2022, early last year. Was it a big surprise to you in terms of, hey, I thought everything was all good and we were hitting all our growth projections and raising guidance and outlook? And was that a surprise? And how much kind of behind the scenes did you have before that? And what was kind of like the realization in the moment as like, oh, maybe things aren't what we thought they were?
Yeah, I mean, so it's a complicated question and has multi-tiered answer for this. So really, when you look at SG&A, I mean, the canary died in a cage, and everybody kind of saw that happen. And then we kept moving along, hoping that maybe it was a false alarm and maybe things were moving in the right direction. We didn't really have a lot of control with the board. And, it's just one of those things where it happened pretty damn fast when you look at the capital that was burned up. And, we started looking at some of these relationships and deals that were being struck and just the things we started to worry. By then it was moving pretty fast and the toothpaste was out of the tube a bit. But yeah, I mean, as we're always concerned investors and we really have no ego. I mean, we're here to, build amazing brands and companies and of course be rewarded for that. And we could see this was going off the rails a bit, but we didn't really, to really clearly answer your question, we didn't realize how far off the rails it got. So we were all shocked at the end of the day. And it took me, I think on my deathbed, I was going to, mumble F45 on my deathbed like Rosebud because it was torturing me because we don't like to lose and we don't lose. So, we invest in things and to see something like this, it's such a great business. It's such an amazing concept. I mean, this really does change people's lives and everybody I know that works out loves it. And we fell in love with the cult atmosphere of F45. We loved the membership base. We loved the trainers. We just loved everything about it. We loved most importantly, the fact that this is a solution for people looking to improve their health and well-being. And because when you go to an F45, unlike big box, for example, you will see results. Your life will change. You will, tone, get better, lose weight, get in better shape, cardio, you name it. I mean, you're going to see a difference. I use the example of my daughter who's now 22, who joined the Planet Fitness and, just would go in and bounce around on the machines and like, nothing, she just wasn't getting anything out of it. Now she's going to sign up again at F45 and she's good. She's already done some classes and already is talking about how her energy and her best friend here joined locally in Pittsburgh. So it does when people, and we love to hear those stories. And, why I F45 is our new campaign now, which is brilliant because when you hear it from actual members and hear it from their words, not just some paid ambassador, right? So these are real people telling their stories, and that's really powerful. And it's all true. We, even with our sports nutrition business, we don't pay ambassadors. It's real customers in our marketing, and that resonates, and that's really cuts to the chase. And people just love the variety of our workouts as opposed to just hitting a treadmill or a bike. This is really different all the time. High energy, great culture.
Yeah, I think all those things, the community, the results, the instructors, not only align incredibly well with what consumers want out of their fitness experiences now, but really give something that you can package and sell and promote and get behind in terms of franchises, and obviously going public and getting investors kind of bought into what that future looks like. And obviously being a public company, there are some things you can't talk about. I want to be respectful of that. But part of it too, it's interesting on this podcast in particular, we talk to folks who are in the retail and brick and mortar and kind of in real life business. And we also talk to the kind of digital tech, like software, hardware, like all these other things. And there are times where, especially on the technology side, is it like, are we getting too bought into the hype? Like, is it like the kind of founder dilemma of, we want to sell you on this big vision, but can we come behind and like deliver? And you spoke a little bit to like maybe mismanagement or maybe getting out a little too far ahead of the skis. At one point in time, I think it was the previous CEO talked about, 25,000 locations globally, or being bigger than McDonald's and Planet Fitness and all these other huge kind of franchise concepts. Is that still the vision as you think about getting back on track? Yes. And then growth globally? Like, how do you think about what it will take and how big it can get, like restoring that trust and that growth?
I'm a big believer in just feeding the system as it grows and not necessarily getting, to use your term, over my skis too much and make these big grandiose statements. I mean, I'm more focused on blocking and tackling and creating just such a great business model that the growth will come naturally. Even back in my GNC days, I used to tell people, like, don't just sell people when they walk in the door, find out what their needs are. Like, what are they struggling with? What do they want to accomplish? The rest will happen. They'll buy what they need, and educate them. Don't just try and sell them something. And the same thing here. Listen, who knows what the number will be? I know we have three amazing concepts right now. We have two Pilates concepts with Vibe and FS8, of course, F45. We know the trends are red hot. I'm a big believer in just feeding the machine, like I said. So as we create a business model and a system that people can trust and know that we're here to support them with all the operational support, marketing support, and that's going to feed the growth more than anything. So how that happens, for me to put a number on it, I don't care about that. I don't even operate with budgets in some of our businesses. It's just about give it your all 1,000% of the time, and if it's working, we'll spend more on it. If it's got an ROI, we don't care what the number is. Like, just keep feeding it. So same thing here with store growth. Like, we're actually putting a lot of emphasis around breaking the back of that mindset of just sell, sell, sell. And we're changing that model to, hey, how do we support the franchisees we have? And how do we grow? But how do we grow profitably? And how do we grow smart?
It's interesting to think about, especially within a franchise model, one, making sure that the members and the customers are happy, but also making sure that the franchises are performing to the best of their abilities. Because if they're not able to stay open, hit profitability and better, then ultimately there is no business. So looking ahead at growth, while it's great and important, like, there is no business if the underlying franchises don't perform, which is, I think, a challenge as it relates to being a public company, especially a fitness company that's public. On a month to month or on a quarterly basis, you're getting evaluated. Hey, how many, these are like top line numbers that obviously, you'll basically have to report on and then get questions on. How many studios opened? How many you're going to open? How many did you sell? Which, especially maybe Wall Street investors aren't as familiar with the kind of franchise business models as it relates to fitness. Those are the growth metrics that they know. Those are the things that are going to matter to them, even if they don't necessarily matter to you to the same level as you're thinking about restoring kind of like this foundation. How will you balance that? Like, it's a tough question, because more recently, right, since undergoing the layoffs and then the transition in leadership, you weren't reporting financials, now kind of issued restated financials. I think the plan is to do that going forward. It will be a tough balance as you're reporting on a quarterly basis. How do you manage that, like, internal, this is the strategy, versus external, these are the metrics that we're just going to be measured on?
Yeah, so you may or may not know we delisted, so that's a positive move and part of the strategy because when you're fixing something and it's better to do it privately and than being a public company because you have to make short-term strategic decisions for the best interest of the company and not spend that time and energy dealing with the street and trying to meet these expectations that may not be good for the company because a lot of times like Amazon lost money forever, right? Yet I wish that I bought it more often. But a lot of these companies, you need to operate and do what's right for the system. And sometimes being a public company, that just doesn't work. So a lot of companies will go private, delist, and fix everything, and then decide what to do, years down the road once you do it. So we made that decision to delist and just focus on, number one, spend our time working on our franchise relationships and our membership and marketing and things that really matter to us and not worry about spending mostly my time and my CFO's time dealing with the street, right? So, and then you mentioned, what the cost is to be a public company. People don't realize, you're $8 million+ a year just to be public. So the decision is like, do we need this? Should we have gone public in the first place? You could obviously argue no with the people we had running the company and no for a number of reasons. But again, everything's fixable. So we're actually excited about what we're doing. We just got funding again, $40 million and another 10 million just to draw from if we need it. But all that money is to take care of one-time costs and issues that we're dealing with just to clean up the system, with accounting and legal issues and just fighting that. So we're pushing hard to actually get all that behind us. So we have a clean slate going into next year. And we're making a tremendous amount of progress. And then, of course, running parallel down the road is I have to be thinking strategically, how do we grow the company? How do we get sales? How do we keep morale going? How do we keep the right people in place? How do we find new people? We just hired 10 new athletes, to help support the field. High energy, high caliber folks. I mean, I just hung up this morning with somebody that's in Austin in our headquarters, and she just was raving, Kirsty, about how amazing our new folks that we brought into the system who are actually working for us in studios. So they have the expertise to do it. And they went through a full interview process. They had to submit videos and answer questions and be interviewed. And these folks are just thrilled to be a part of the growth and be here with us. And that's what we need. We need all-star people that just have high integrity, great work ethic, have respect for the company and the things that we're working on, and they want to be a part of it.
Hey everyone, we'll get back to the show in just a second. But first, I wanted to tell you about our exclusive PR partner, Jack Taylor. Honestly, this one's a no-brainer. We've known the Jack Taylor team for years. They work with some of the most innovative health and wellness companies. We're talking Whoop, Athletic Greens, Hyperice, and many more. Jack Taylor has an extensive industry network, knows how to work with high-growth companies, and really invests in building long-term relationships. I know this firsthand because they're Fitt Insider's PR agency, so I can confidently recommend them, and I do all the time. From startups to more established brands, they go beyond pushing product to help companies truly thrive. To learn more, head to fitt.co/Jack Taylor. That's FITT.co/Jack Taylor. Now back to the show. Yeah, it's really interesting to hear you talk about it. Very measured and realistic and back to basics, almost execution focused. Are those the things that you're kind of communicating with the team as you talk to them in this role? I mean, obviously you're having to have what are difficult conversations around getting the system right and making sure that all the pieces are in place and not necessarily selling this huge vision in the future of growth and X, Y, and Z, you name it, to get everybody excited and bought in. It's like, we have the concept, we have the brand, we have the community, we just need to execute. And it sounds like from your perspective, it's very kind of common sense. And like I said, back to basics. Is that well received, or are people able to get on board with that? And, you mentioned getting it right internally from the system wide, like selling that is kind of like, I know I liken it to, as a football fan, like the Patriot way, like Bill Belichick, like your job is your job. Like we have to do the job. And if you do it right, like there's obviously kind of championships on the other side. So, but getting that buy-in is difficult.
Yeah, honestly, everything you said is spot on. I talk about it constantly. SOP, standard operating procedures, is something I start with and end with. We have parameters. We actually do business reviews, which they never did before. Shocking, I know. How do you run a company when department heads don't even know, they're not being measured? They don't know what their goals are. They don't, So, we're really spending a lot of time talking about procedures. And again, everybody got on board really fast. I mean, we've made some changes, and everything was very strategic and meaningful. But right now, everybody again is really welcoming the guardrails, the support, and the direction we're going, because we're getting wins. Like, we are seeing the energy in the studios. Our numbers are up through the summer. The marketing is really doing a great job now. We just did a new website. We just did a new app, which is amazing. I mean, these two things made a big difference. So we're going to be going after SEO with our new website. The website's more friendly and able to find studios. Our app is now condensed down, so you have everything in one app that's very user friendly as well. So these things, just like in business, it's 1,000 little things I tell people all the time. You just keep knocking them off, and then all of a sudden you start getting momentum, and the momentum feeds itself. And that's what we're seeing, because this, again, is a simplistic business in some regards, because it's a franchise model. It comes down to a great experience, which we have, and marketing, really, and then operations. So, making sure that operationally we're doing all the right things to support the system. We're making sure marketing is driving AUVs and telling our story, because for us, especially in like the US, brand recognition is everything. So we're working on some partnerships to get people in the door and get them to learn about F45. We've changed. We're going out with window signs now to tell people who we are. We're changing, even our old logo used to make me crazy just saying F45. Now we say training under it. So a lot of these little things still resonate and make a difference, because I've been in this almost probably 4.5, maybe 5 years now, and 7 out of 10 people would be like, "Oh, what's F45? I've heard of it, but what exactly is it?" So, how do we get that to like, "Oh, we have the brand recognition here," which we're doing. More and more people now are coming into the system, which is great. And again, once we get them in the door, we're going to crush it with them. They're going to love it. From a marketing standpoint, you couldn't ask for a better, more sticky, engaging consumer base, and more stories to tell, because everybody wants to live longer. Everybody wants to have a better quality of life. Everybody wants to be bigger, thinner, just healthier, less pain, and we're offering all those things. So it's a great place to be in, for a lot of reasons. And there's huge growth in the space. So, and again, we just got behind our 2 Pilates concepts. We just tweaked our FS8 model. We nailed it so great. I mean, JC down in Australia and her team really did an amazing job, because I came in, saw it, and, still we listened. I'm on social media reading things, and I said, well, how do we, and again, I'm in the weeds CEO. I mean, it's always been, I'm just naturally like in the weeds, and I just go. So I'm like challenging everything. So we say our workout's the best, but like, is there anything we could do to fix it, make it a little bit better? And the answer is almost all the time, yes. I don't care who you are. There's always room for improvement. So the team has been very receptive to it, and we've been tweaking things. So the FS8, we're calling it internally 2.0, is now really nailed down, keeping people on a one reformer and a mat next to them, because it's toning, yoga, and Pilates together, which is very unique, and people loved it before. Now they're really going crazy for it. And then we have Vibe, which is going to be called Vora here in the States because of the name issues. But that's a high energy Pilates that's off the charts, amazing. The highest Vibe one is doing like 1.3 in Singapore. We just absolutely love the sales results, and that's just, think of a high-end spin class with the lights and the mirrors and the energy, and that's what that concept is. And again, people love it, and so we weren't really behind it, because and there was a lot going on with the transitional, and they had an interim guy, and so there's a lot of things that took them off their game. So for me to kind of laser focus on the things that make sense and drive this business forward, it was easy to do, and people recognize that we should be behind these things, because the heavy lifting is being done and it's working.
Yeah, you mentioned the other brands, which I think is interesting. There was also, I think, at one point in time, like a women's focused concept, men's like Malibu Crew. There was also an expansion, a lot of emphasis put on like this idea of opening on cruise ships, which I don't know if that's still happening, on hospitality. So I guess the kind of question is around what is still a priority and what's not a priority as it relates to the concepts. There was also, if you still own it, I know purchased it at one point, Flywheel, their IP. Is there any plans to resurrect that, get into the cycling game as you think about kind of trends there?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in not trying to invent something that's not hot. And like cycling's kind of, we still own it. Yes. We may do something with it down the road. In this business, everything, is a roller coaster, cyclical. So we'll see. We have it. But, the man that chases two chickens goes home hungry is a great Chinese proverb, right? So focus is important in business. So we're not doing Malibu Crew, whatever the heck it was called. And part of the thing was there was no real focus on like when we do something. I tell the team, when we test something, we're going to go at it like our life depends on it. I act every day as if we're about to go out of business in anything I'm invested in, anything I'm with, because I have high respect for capital, the people that invest, the business people here need to know that you are fighting for every dollar and everything's important that we do from time to spend. So that mentality and that culture is a whipsaw from where we were before. So, when we pick concepts that are trending hot, like Pilates is red hot, yoga is red hot, like we should be living there. We're already working on what we know is hot now for next year, thinking about how do we add value for our membership. So is it more recovery talk? We have a lot of that talk. We have some franchisees that are now testing some recovery concepts. But, we stay focused on, the things that we know are already trending in a great direction and put our best effort behind that and not be distracted by too many things that we just don't do well. I mean, this company historically has been terrible at execution. Now we're getting really good at execution, but we're still learning and getting better. But, we're not going to be chasing every shiny object that we just think could be good. We're actually testing things, and we're studying the market. We're studying, or even our competitors. And we're saying, okay, we could do this, but we could do it in time. Right now is not the time, because right now we have three amazing concepts that pretty much check all the boxes for the things that are hot and ready to go. But that doesn't mean we can't do more once we get our feet under us a little bit more from an operations standpoint, build our team, continue to do that. But next year, look for some pretty cool concepts that are already trending hot. You can probably guess them, but we're excited to do that as well. But when we do it, we're going to do it the right way. We put all of our effort behind it. We don't just dabble in it, because I've learned over the years, when you test something, nobody really cares about it. It just it will always die. That's a recipe for disaster. So if we test it, we believe it's the right test, we go after it and we do everything we can to make it work. And then if it doesn't work, at least you gave it your all, and you know that you gave it your best effort, but you always learn from that. So maybe it's, morphs into something else.
Yeah, is that to the extent that you want to talk about new concepts, would this be as part of the kind of F45 membership programming, or would this be standalone studios and brands?
There's a couple things. So my vision is to have a retail store in the middle and an FS8 or Vibe on one side and F45 on the other. So how do we maximize our real estate and really provide more value for our franchisees, because they complement each other from a pricing standpoint? It's a great buy. So for an extra, whatever the number looks like, you can belong to both. Flex with that as well. So you can come in off time and get your workout in and run through the track like we do at F45 now. So again, you missed your class. We're not trying to take people out of classes. This is just a convenience factor. A lot of people, like my wife, say, "Oh, I don't want to go in there and work out, with all these people around me, like, because I haven't been to a gym in forever." And she's, in relatively good shape, walks and had personal trainers her whole life, but she still felt intimidated. So part of my initiative as well is like, well, how do we get those people in the door to kind of see it and not be afraid of it, and check it out? And then they'll be like, oh, great. And then they'll move over to classes. And again, the big win is just having the freedom to come in. Like, I interviewed a guy who was in there working out, and his wife got called into work. She was a nurse and had to go in the morning on a Saturday, and he had to stay home with his two young kids. He didn't want to, miss a workout on a Saturday. He was in there working out with three other people in my local F45. And that was perfect. I wish I recorded it, because that's exactly, how we add value for our members. So backing up to your question, we may do it as a plug-in and add on some of these concepts like recovery now with the ice plunge and, the saunas and, stretching and massaging, guns. Some of our franchisees, we're embracing that and we're testing that along with them, and are doing a great job with it. So again, the more value we can show and add for our membership group, the better. So we'll tweak it, but I could certainly see some of these recovery parts being like right next to it as well. So we'll just figure out as we move, do we just expand our real estate footprint, get more value there? Or do we go the whole new concept? Because there's efficiencies and conversations around how each would work better. But I think certainly there's real value that can be added through some of these things. And again, cold plunge is hotter than hot right now. No, it's not even a pun, but it's popular, I should say, instead of hot. So cold plunge hot, but listen, that could die a quick death. You see these things come, especially growing up in the supplement business. The Atkins died faster than we ever imagined. People were building factories, and 2 weeks later, they're filing bankruptcy. So I've seen it all. The trends and things happen. So we're going to tread lightly, but when we do decide something's here to stay, I think stretching and some of those type of things will always be here now. And as the popularity of recovery is so important, I could tell you that we're pretty confident that'll be a part of our story going forward.
Yeah, a lot to tap into down that path. Maybe two quick questions before we get you out of here. One, given that yourself and also Mark Wahlberg is in a lot of these businesses already, from supplements to apparel to consumer products, there's obviously a lot of extensions that F45 could get into. We're seeing someone like Nike, for example, now doing their own studios and equipment. Is there any goal to kind of back into some of these consumer product categories as well as you think about expanding the business?
Yes. So we're definitely working hard to create some value add for our franchisees to have revenue streams. I mean, I just lose my mind when I go in and see a clothing rack with three extra small sizes nobody wants in some weird color. I mean, we just have so much money left on the table not having revenue streams. We're definitely partnering with Performance Inspired Nutrition to give them that outlet to add revenue. We're working with some beverage companies. We're working to find the right apparel partner. We have an amazing membership base of very engaged folks who are obviously committed to their health and wellness. And so our story is, how do we find the right partner that needs to tap into that? Because I learned at GNC that people were throwing money at us for our gold card member base, because you're hard pressed to find a better consumer to speak to, because folks will take pictures now on social media every time they lift weights, every time they eat a healthy meal. They're very engaging. So that's very valuable. We're sitting on very valuable asset in our membership base. It was never taken advantage of before. So cross-pollinating and tapping into other organic partners like that is going to be a huge win for us. We're already getting traction there. We just did the Whoop Band deal that was made public. That was my first thought in my head when I first was talking about just being a consultant here, which I was for the first month. Why aren't we doing something with folks like that who are obviously not competing but have the same membership base? So this is where my retailer kicks in and helps this whole model, because everything for me is a consumer good for the most part. We're just selling something different in experience, but it's still selling. We have such a great product. The more people we engage with to get them in the door to try us, we're going to win. I mean, that's why we give out thousands of protein bars a year at Performance Inspired, because when they try it, they look at the label, we won. So that's the same thing here. So yes, to answer your question, there are a lot of businesses that would love to be a part of what we have. And so we're having those conversations.
Yeah, a lot of opportunity there. And I think a lot of exciting kind of partnerships and certainly revenue potential to tap into. Last question, and we'll get you out of here. Is it, listening to everything you're saying, focusing on execution, really getting buy-in, cleaning up the system, doing the things that you already do really well, but this other piece where it sounds like not 100% sure on if it makes sense to remain public, go private, what that looks like going forward. To the extent that that's figured out now, that you want to talk about it now, do you have either a timeline to make a decision like that? Do you have specific criteria that you're waiting to decide on, or is it just a kind of a matter of time to figure it out?
Yeah, we're still filing. We just filed our 10K, so we're still filing this month. We'll do some filing, so we'll just let that happen. But I mean, it's really from just what we do and what we write off, and what's already behind us is behind us. So I'm just focused on the future, knowing that we have an amazing sponsor with us who's already invested a lot of money with this, and it's public knowledge. Kenny Lewis, they're the ones that just funded the other 40 million on top of the 90 million. So nobody's putting good money after bad, trust me. So for us, listen, it's a lesson learned, but it's behind us. It's written off. As an investor, I know there's so much more upside. I don't even cry over the spilt milk. It's just over. So my anger days are over now. I'm just so optimistic and thrilled because I'm not used to buying. I'm not used to riding it all the way down. We usually come in and buy companies here and then ride it back up. So I'm happy to take the full ride. Now it's actually been a great learning experience. It's been really fulfilling for me. I just am so inspired myself by the franchisees and their feedback is so important to me. And reading about their now support of me in the system has been so rewarding for me. I mean, literally, I just love what we're doing. And I feel so good about helping them succeed and not worry about where we're going to be because we're clearly going to be here now, especially with the funding and just what we're doing for them. And honestly, if we weren't taking this company to the next level, I would never come in. I'd be like, all right, great, let's move on. I'm done. I need the tax write off. Let's go. But so my time is my most valuable thing now, and I think I've proven that putting in the time and what I'm doing should be and is inspiring people and letting them know that we're going to have an amazing business here from a HQ standpoint down. So the people that work for us and want to work for us are going to be a part of something great. And I actually consider it an honor for everybody to work here because they're going to be a part of this great ride up and growth, which is just always fun. I mean, I'm a growth executive. I'm not a guy to ride things down. I hate it. I love to sell. I love to make things grow, and I love branding and marketing, and just that's the fun part for me. So a lot of the financial stuff and legal stuff's getting behind us, but now we just focus on the good stuff, which is watching people be successful, and that means the employees and the franchisees. That gives me a lot of pride.
Yeah, I appreciate you, making some time, knowing that it is such a valuable asset to take us behind the scenes a little bit and inside that journey, as you phrased it, the ride kind of back up. I think we'll be following closely and excited to see what that looks like, how you go about executing a lot of things that you've talked about today. For folks that maybe know F45 or don't want to learn more, a website, social media, where do you want them to kind of go check it out in person, I'm sure, and just learn more?
Yeah, all of the above. Check out our Instagram, Facebook, our new website's great. So F45 Training. I mean, we just Google it, you'll see everything will come up. And yeah, I mean, listen, follow it. Mark Wahlberg, you should be following. I'm Big Deal Dowd on Instagram. An old nickname from literally when I was 15 for always dealing and selling stuff, car parts, you name it, and so it stuck with me. But follow us and you'll see Mark's posting about it too. Mark's been an amazing partner with me as well, and he's been a big supporter of F45, and we're thrilled to have him be the face of it and just help educate people about why we're different and better than anybody else out there. And we just love the fact that he's in the trenches with me and he's my chief branding officer and he's full of ideas. And that's a whole nother podcast down the road of things that we're working on with him, from hotels and cruise ships, like you mentioned, and just extending our brand and getting more people to learn about us.
Say when. We'll get back on for round two and make it happen. Excited to share this conversation. Thanks again for making time. And yeah, looking forward to picking it back up, getting the update once you've been in maybe another 6 months or year down the road.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it, Joe. Thank you so much for your time.
One more thing before you head out. Help us spread the word. Take a minute to rate and review the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, or share this episode with a friend. And if you like conversations like this, you'll love the Fitt Insider newsletter. We send it every Tuesday. The link is in the description. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you back here next week.